Hello and welcome to our lesson 3 under Abdomen 2. So we are going to discuss about the spleen, the pancreas, the kidneys, the gallbladder, and then the liver. So at the end of this module, the students must be able to identify and differentiate the organs of the abdominal cavity, specifically the pancreas, the gallbladder, the kidneys, the spleen, and then the liver. And also to describe the location of different organs of the abdominal cavity in relation to each other. So here is a picture of our gastrointestinal tract accessory organs. So if our GIT or the digestive system starts from the mouth down to the anus, we have here your accessory organs. Now these accessory organs like your liver, the gallbladder, and then the pancreas, and it also includes another image here. Right here is your pancreas, this one is your gallbladder, and these are your livers. So these structures would usually produce secretions or materials that can help to aid by digestion and absorption of nutrients. Okay, so but before that, let's discuss first the spleen. So the spleen, you need to take note that this one is not included or not classified as an accessory organ of the GIT. So the spleen is reddish and it is the largest single mass of lymphoid tissue in the body. So it is not a component of the GI tract despite their close relationship. It lies just beneath the left half of the diaphragm, close to the ninth, 10th, and 11th ribs. So, as you can see, the location of our spleen is at the left hypochondriac region in the abdominal regions, and it is found between the stomach and then the diaphragm. So here's a picture of the location of the our spleen near or that lies beneath the left half of the diaphragm, close to the ninth, the 10th, and then the 11th ribs. So neighboring organs make indentations in the visceral surface of the spleen. So these indentations are your gastric impression right here. So it is actually caused by the structure, which is your stomach. And then we have next the renal impression right here below. So this one is caused by the kidney, especially the left kidney. Then the colic impression, which is caused by the left colic flexure of the large intestine. So, like the lymph nodes, the spleen also has its own hilum right here at the center. So, for the spleen, there are usually white pulps which produce B cells and T cells that carry out immune functions similar to the lymph nodes, while the spleen macrophages destroy blood-borne pathogens by phagocytosis. Now, aside from the white pulp in the spleen, we also have the red pulp. Now, this red pulp is where the spleen performs three functions related to blood cells. For example, the first one is removal by macrophages of ruptured, worn out, or defective blood cells and platelets. Next, storage of platelets up to one-third of the body supply. And lastly, production of blood cells for example, hematopoiesis or the production of your RBC during fetal life. So after the spleen, let's discuss the pancreas. So the pancreas is both an endocrine and an exocrine gland. So the pancreas is actually located at the greater curvature of the stomach, specifically at the epigastrium and the left upper quadrant. So it has its own parts. We have here the head, the neck, the body, and then the tail of the pancreas. So um, again, as what I have mentioned earlier, it is both an exocrine and an endocrine gland. So the exocrine portion of the gland produces a secretion that contains enzymes capable of hydrolyzing proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Now, this exocrine portion of the gland produces this pancreatic juice, which normally amounts up to 1,200 to 1,500 ml per day. So this pancreatic juice is formed by the pancreatic acini, which contains that exocrine gland functions. Now, aside from the exocrine gland, again, it's also an endocrine gland. Now, the endocrine portion of the gland, the pancreatic islets, or the islets of Langerhans, they actually produce the hormones insulin and glucagon, which play a key role in carbohydrate mechanism. metabolism, sorry, carbohydrate metabolism. Now, under this islet of Langerhans, we have four cells. We have your alpha cells, beta cells, delta cells, and F cells. So your alpha cells or A cells constitute about 17% of the pancreatic islets and they secrete glucagon. Take note of that. Next, the beta cells or the B cells constitute about 70% of the pancreatic islet cells and secrete insulin. Now, I know you're familiar with insulin. Next, the delta or D cells constitute about 7% of pancreatic islets and now secrete your somatostatin. So these are actually hormones. And next, lastly, the F cells. Now, these F cells constitute the remainder of pancreatic islet cells, and now they produce or secrete pancreatic polypeptide. So the main duct or the main duct of the pancreas begins in the tail right here and runs to the length of the gland, so receiving numerous tributaries on the way. So it opens in the second part of the duodenum right here at about its middle with bile duct on the major duodenal papilla. So as you can see, before it enters the duodenum, it will then merge with the bile duct and enter at the major duodenal papilla. So sometimes the main duct drains separately into the duodenum. Next is the accessory duct of the pancreas. So this one is your accessory duct. And when present, it drains the upper part of the head and then opens into the duodenum a short distance above the main duct on the um, minor duodenal papilla. So right here. So the accessory duct frequently communicates with the main duct. Now, here's another picture of the pancreas and the ducts of the pancreas. So again, we have here your main pancreatic duct that starts from the tail of the pancreas. And now this main pancreatic duct is also known the duct. It's also known as the duct of Wirsung or Wirsung. So, the other name of your accessory pancreatic duct is the duct of Santorini, and also we have here the ampulla of Vater. Now, this ampulla of Vater is also known as you can see here, as the hepatopancreatic ampulla, or again, the ampulla of Vater right here. Okay, so again, we have here the tail and then the pancreatic duct or the main pancreatic, which is the duct of Wirsung. Then we have here maybe at sometimes present the accessory duct, which is the duct of Santorini. And then we have here your hepatopancreatic ampulla or the ampulla of Vater. Now, aside from that, we also have here the sphincter of Oddi. So this part is the location of your sphincter of Oddi. Now, the sphincter of Oddi controls the flow of bile and pancreatic juice into the intestine. So, if the sphincter of the Oddi contracts, there will be no passage of those secretions. Now, if relaxed, there will be passage of secretions. So, it is important that the proteolytic enzymes of the pancreatic juice not become activated until after they have been secreted into the intestine because the trypsin, which is an enzyme, and some other enzymes would digest the pancreas. So, after discussing the pancreas, let's proceed to the liver. So, the liver is the largest gland in the body, and it is also considered as the largest organ or second largest organ of the body after the skin. So, it has a wide variety of functions. The three of its basic functions are production and secretion of bile, which is passed into the intestinal tract, involvement in many metabolic activities related to carbohydrate, fat, and protein metabolism, and filtration of the blood, removing bacteria and other foreign particles that have gained entrance to the blood from the lumen of the intestine. So, mainly, the functions of our liver is filtration of the blood, storage of the nutrients, and production of the bile. So as you can see in the picture, from the hip towards the body, some blood or oxygenated blood that are going towards the rest of the parts of your body will go towards your hepatic artery. Now, in the hepatic artery, the oxygen is, the blood is rich in oxygen. Now, when it reaches the liver, um, it will undergo process or filtration, and then after that it will go towards your hepatic vein, and from the body it will go back again towards your heart. Now there is also blood that comes from the gastrointestinal tract. Now this blood from the gastrointestinal tract go towards your hepatic portal vein. Now this hepatic portal vein contains blood that are rich with nutrients from the absorption of nutrients in your food. So it will then enter your liver to be filtrated and absorbed and stored. So some of it will be stored in the liver, and then after that it will go towards your hepatic vein, wherein there is oxygen poor blood, and go towards again your heart for pumping, and so that it can undergo oxygenation again. So aside from that, we have four lobes of our liver. So the liver is almost completely covered by visceral peritoneum, and is completely covered by a dense, irregular connective tissue layer that lies deep to the peritoneum. So the liver is divided into two principal lobes. We have the right, which is large, and a smaller left. So they actually connected to each other by a falciform ligament. Okay, again, they are connected to each other by a falciform ligament and a fold of mesentery. So although the right lobe is considered by many anatomists to include an inferior quadrat lobe, so as you can see here, this is your inferior quadrat lobe and a posterior caudate lobe. So this is your posterior caudate lobe, and this one is your inferior quadrate lobe or quadrat lobe. So the quadrat and caudate lobes more appropriately belong to the left lobe compared to your right lobe. Okay, so aside from that, we have here your hepatocytes. So the hepatocytes function in your liver for bile production. So this bile that is produced by your are produced by your hepatocytes are function for fat emulsification or emulsifying fat. So it also aids in absorption of the digested fat and products through the intestinal mucosal membrane. So it the means for excretion of several important waste products from the blood, which is your bilirubin and excess cholesterol. Take note that the normal amount of bile in a day is 800 to 1000 ml per day. So this bile does not only contain water and cholesterol, but of course it contains bile salts and bile pigments. That's why its color is yellow olive green. Okay, now this picture depicts some parts of the biliary tree. So from the right lobe of the liver, we have here your right hepatic duct. Now, this is where your bile will pass through from the right lobe of the liver. On the other hand, or on the other side, we have here the left hepatic duct from the left lobe of the liver. So from the right and then the left, it will merge and now be called your common hepatic duct until here. Again, we have the right hepatic duct on the right lobe of the liver, left hepatic duct on the left lobe of the liver, and then when it merges at the center, we call it now your common hepatic duct. Now, next is the gallbladder. So your gallbladder is a pear-shaped sac with a function to store the bile. Again, its function is storage of bile that are produced by the hepatocytes in your liver. Now, it actually contains a cystic duct. So if this is your gallbladder, we have here your cystic duct, and your gallbladder is actually located inferior to your liver. So as what you can see here on the picture, if this is your right liver, your gallbladder is mostly located at the right under the right lobe of the liver. Now, this what do you call this? Okay, so your gallbladder actually empties its store of concentrated bile into the duodenum, mainly in response to the hormone CCK. So this hormone CCK will give stimulus that it is initiated mainly by fatty foods. So definitely, if you eat more fatty foods, there will be more release of bile from from your gallbladder and going towards the cystic duct. Okay, so when fat is not in the food, the gallbladder empties poorly, but when significant quantities of fat are present, the gallbladder normally empties completely in about 1 hour. Okay, so from the gallbladder, again, we have your cystic duct. which you can see here on the picture. Again, this is your gallbladder, and then it will pass through the cystic duct. I mean, the bile will pass through your cystic duct. Now, after the cystic duct merges with the common hepatic duct from the liver, it will be now called your common bile duct. Again, from the cystic duct, then which